The blue glow of 3 monitors illuminated Rachel Matthews' face in the darkness of her home office. It was 3:47 in the morning on a Wednesday, and Seattle slept outside her window while she worked. The rain that had been falling since sunset created a rhythmic pattern against the glass, a sound so familiar to the Pacific Northwest that it barely registered anymore. Her fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced efficiency, finalizing a vulnerability assessment report for a client whose systems held the financial data of millions of people. One mistake, one overlooked weakness, and hackers could drain accounts, destroy lives, leave chaos in their wake. This was what Rachel did. She protected people. She found the cracks before the bad guys did. She built walls around digital fortresses and made sure they held. At 38 years old, she was one of the most respected cybersecurity specialists in Seattle, trusted by Fortune 500 companies to keep their secrets safe. Her work required absolute focus, meticulous attention to detail, and the ability to think like both defender and attacker simultaneously. The apartment around her was silent except for the low hum of the air conditioning and the soft clicking of her keyboard. David, her husband of 7 years, was asleep in their bedroom down the hall. Or at least, she assumed he was asleep. He had texted her around 11 saying his client meeting ran late and he would be home soon. She had been too absorbed in her work to hear him come in. Rachel stretched her neck, feeling the tension that came from hours hunched over a desk. Her blonde hair, usually styled in soft waves that framed her face, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore an oversized sweatshirt and pajama pants, her usual uniform for late-night work sessions. Her blue eyes, which colleagues often described as sharp and observant, were slightly bloodshot from staring at screens for too long. She saved the report and leaned back in her chair, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. Another system secured. Another potential disaster prevented. This was why she loved her work, despite the long hours and the constant pressure. Every vulnerability she patched, every weakness she found and fixed, meant real people stayed safe. Her phone buzzed with a notification. She glanced at it, expecting an email from a colleague in a different time zone. Instead, it was an alert from her home security system. Movement detected, living room, bedroom. Tuesday, 10:32 post-meridium. Rachel frowned. That was odd. She had been at the office Tuesday night, working late on a different project. David had said he had a client dinner and would not be home until late. The notification was from yesterday, over 24 hours ago. Why was she only seeing it now? She pulled up the security system app on her phone. The system was something she had installed 6 months earlier, not because she distrusted David, but because it was simply who she was. When you spent your days protecting billion-dollar systems from sophisticated hackers, you automatically secured your own home too. Cameras at the front door, motion sensors in the main rooms, automatic logs of every entry and exit. It was all backed up to a secure cloud server that only she could access. She rarely checked the footage. It was just there as a safety net, a backup in case something happened. A break-in, a fire, an emergency, the kind of thing you hope you never need but are grateful to have. But now, staring at that notification in the early morning darkness, something made her click on it. Maybe it was professional curiosity. Maybe it was that small voice in the back of her mind that had been whispering for weeks that something felt off, though she had been too busy, too trusting, too comfortable to listen. The video loaded. Timestamp. Tuesday, 10:32 post-meridium. The front door of their apartment opened. David walked in, tall and confident in his tailored suit, his dark hair styled perfectly as always. He was 40 years old and took pride in his appearance, always dressed like he was about to close a major deal. His marketing agency had been doing well, or so he said. New clients, growing revenue, bigger projects, but David was not alone. A woman walked in behind him. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. The woman was striking, probably early 30s, with long dark hair that fell in perfect waves past her shoulders. She wore an emerald green dress that hugged every curve of her body, and black heels that made a distinct clicking sound on the hardwood floor. Even through the grainy security footage, Rachel could see she was beautiful in that effortless way some women were, the kind of woman who turned heads without trying. But it was not the woman's appearance that made Rachel's heart start to pound. It was the way David touched her. His hand rested on the small of her back as they walked through the door, intimate and possessive, the way he used to touch Rachel in the early years of their marriage, before familiarity bred routine, before love became comfortable rather than passionate. The woman laughed at something David said. Rachel could not hear the audio, but she could see the woman's head tilt back, her hand reaching out to touch David's arm in that flirtatious way that was unmistakable. And David, her husband, the man who had promised to love and cherish her until death, smiled down at the woman with an expression Rachel recognized because it used to be reserved for her. They did not linger in the living room. David gestured toward the hallway, and the woman followed. They disappeared from the camera's view, heading toward the bedroom, their bedroom, the bed Rachel and David shared. Rachel sat frozen in her chair, staring at her phone screen. The video had ended, but her mind was racing so fast she could barely form coherent thoughts. Her hands trembled as she set the phone down on the desk. Part of her wanted to scream. Part of her wanted to run to the bedroom, shake David awake, demand an explanation. Part of her wanted to cry, to break down, to let the hurt wash over her until she could not breathe. But the largest part of her, the part that had been trained through years of high-pressure work to stay calm under threat, to analyze before reacting, to gather all the data before making a move, simply activated. Her emotions did not disappear. They crystallized into something cold and focused, something analytical. If David was cheating, she needed proof. Real proof. Not just one night that could potentially be explained away, though she could not imagine what explanation would justify bringing another woman into their home, into their bed. She needed to know the full scope of what was happening. How long? How often? Who the woman was? What David's intentions were. Rachel pulled her laptop closer and opened the security system's full interface. Her fingers moved across the keyboard with the same efficiency she used at work, navigating through folders and files with practiced ease. She filtered the logs to show all motion-detected alerts from the past month, and there it was. A pattern so clear it made her stomach turn. Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, same time frame between 10 and midnight, over and over again. Movement detected, living room, bedroom. Each alert lasted approximately 1 hour. Rachel counted them. 12 separate incidents over the past 6 weeks. 12 times her husband had brought another woman into their home while Rachel worked late at the office, unaware and trusting. She clicked on each video file, watching them in chronological order. The same woman every time. The same routine. David and the woman entering through the front door, talking and laughing, his hand on her back or waist or arm, walking to the bedroom, staying for about an hour, leaving. David walking her to the door, sometimes kissing her goodbye in a way that was far too familiar, far too intimate to be anything innocent. Rachel's analytical mind noted details. The woman arrived in a black sedan that parked on the street. She wore different outfits, but always dressed elegantly, like she was going somewhere important rather than sneaking into a married man's apartment. On one video, Rachel could see David handing the woman a glass of wine, the bottle they kept in the kitchen for special occasions. The bottle Rachel had bought on their last anniversary trip to Napa Valley. By the time Rachel finished reviewing all the footage, the sky outside her window was beginning to lighten. Dawn was approaching. David would wake up in a few hours, get ready for work, kiss her goodbye like he did every morning, and she would smile and tell him to have a good day like she always did. Except now, everything was different. Now she knew the truth. But video evidence was not enough. Rachel needed context. She needed to understand who this woman was, what David was thinking, what his plans were. She needed to see inside his mind, read his messages, understand the full picture before she decided what to do. What she was about to do was technically illegal. She knew that. Accessing someone else's phone without permission violated privacy laws, even if that someone was your spouse. But Rachel had spent her entire career learning how to break into systems, how to find vulnerabilities, how to bypass security measures. It was her job. And right now, sitting in the pre-dawn darkness with her marriage falling apart around her, she did not care about legal technicalities. She had access to all of David's passwords. Over the years, he had asked her dozens of times to help him reset accounts, recover locked profiles, update security settings. He trusted her completely, never imagining that she was mentally cataloging every password, every security question, every pattern he used. It was not deliberate deception on her part. It was simply habit. When you work in cybersecurity, you notice these things automatically. Rachel opened her laptop's virtual machine, routing her connection through multiple proxy servers to mask her activity. Then she logged into David's cloud account, using credentials she had helped him set up 2 years ago. He had never changed them. His phone's backup data loaded on her screen. Messages, photos, call logs, location history, everything. Rachel took a deep breath and opened the Messages folder. She scrolled through recent conversations, past exchanges with colleagues and clients that seemed normal enough. Then she found it. A conversation thread with a contact saved simply as V. The messages went back months. Rachel started from the beginning. The first message was from 4 months ago, casual and seemingly innocent. "Hey, stranger. I am back in Seattle after all these years. Been thinking about you." David's response came an hour later. "Really? Welcome back. How have you been?" "Good. Different. Starting over, you know? Heard your agency is doing well. Cannot complain. Business is growing. What brings you back to the city?" "New job opportunity. Needed a fresh start after everything. Would love to catch up if you have time." Rachel's jaw tightened as she read. The tone was friendly, but carried an undercurrent of something more. She scrolled down, watching the conversation evolve over days and weeks. "Lunch next Tuesday? I know this great place downtown. Sounds good. 1 o'clock? Perfect. Looking forward to seeing you again." The messages after that lunch meeting shifted. More frequent, more personal. David started using emoji he never used with Rachel anymore. The woman, whoever V was, sent photos of herself at different Seattle landmarks. Pike Place Market, the Space Needle, Alki Beach. In every photo, she looked effortlessly beautiful, always smiling, always styled perfectly. "Remember when we used to come here?" she wrote under a photo of a waterfront restaurant. "How could I forget? Best salmon I ever had." Or maybe it was just the company. Rachel felt physically ill reading those words. The flirtation was obvious, barely disguised. And David was encouraging it, feeding into it, responding with his own flirtatious comments. "I have been thinking about us a lot lately," the woman wrote a few weeks into their renewed contact. "Yeah? What about us? About how good we were together? How stupid I was to let you go." There was a pause in the messages. Several hours passed before David responded. "That was a long time ago. We were different people." Were we, though? Or did we just convince ourselves we wanted different things? Another pause. Rachel could almost see David sitting with his phone, debating how to respond, knowing he was married but clearly tempted by whatever this woman was offering. "Things are complicated now. You know I am married." "I know. I am not trying to complicate your life. I just missed you. Missed talking to you. Can we just be friends?" Friends. Rachel almost laughed at the word. What came next proved how meaningless that label was. The messages continued, growing more intimate with each exchange. Late-night conversations about their past relationship, reminiscing about places they had been together, things they had done. The woman, V, slowly peeling back David's resistance with carefully chosen words. Do you ever think about what might have happened if we had stayed together? Sometimes, but we chose different paths. Did we choose? Or did we just get scared? Maybe both. I was scared. Scared of how much I felt for you, how much power you had over me. It was easier to leave than to risk getting hurt. And now? Now I realize running away was the biggest mistake I ever made. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it away. Rachel's hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the laptop. She forced herself to keep reading, even though every word felt like a knife twisting deeper into her chest. David's responses became longer, more vulnerable. He started sharing things about his life, his marriage, his feelings, things he had stopped sharing with Rachel years ago. Sometimes I wonder if I settled, if I chose safe over passionate. What do you mean? My wife is a good person, smart, successful. We have a comfortable life together. But it is comfortable, you know? Predictable. We are roommates who occasionally remember we are supposed to be married. Rachel stopped breathing. Roommates. That was how he saw their marriage. After 7 years of building a life together, of supporting each other's careers, of choosing each other every day, he reduced them to roommates. That sounds lonely, V wrote. It is. I did not realize how lonely until you came back into my life. I am here now, and I am not going anywhere this time. The messages after that crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. V sent a photo of herself in a red dress, standing in front of a mirror. The image clearly meant to be provocative. Thoughts, she wrote. David's response came quickly. You are still the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Just beautiful? Or do you remember how good we were together in other ways? I remember everything, every single moment. I think about those moments a lot, especially late at night when I am alone. You should not say things like that. Why not? It is the truth. I think about your hands on me, your mouth on mine, the way you used to make me feel alive in ways no one else ever has. I am married, so you keep saying, but you are still here, still talking to me, still remembering. If you really wanted me to stop, you would have stopped responding weeks ago. She was right, and David knew it. His next message confirmed it. I do not want you to stop. I have tried to stay away, tried to do the right thing. But I cannot stop thinking about you, about us, about what we had, and what we could have again. Then stop trying to stay away. Stop pretending you do not want this. It is not that simple. I cannot just leave my wife. We have been together for years. We have a life, shared finances, a home. I cannot just walk away without destroying everything. So what are you saying? You want me? But you will not do anything about it? I need time. I need to figure out how to handle this without hurting her more than necessary. Does she know about us talking? No. She works constantly. Late nights, weekends, always buried in her computer. She barely notices when I am home or not. Rachel felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She refused to break down. Not yet. Not until she had all the information. Then, keep it that way for now, V wrote. We can be patient. See each other when she is working. Take our time figuring this out. And then what? Then you do what you should have done years ago. You choose me. For real this time. The next messages detailed their first meeting at the apartment. V suggested it, arguing that hotels were risky and expensive. David hesitated but ultimately agreed. He gave her the security code to the building, told her which nights Rachel would be working late, assured her they would not get caught. He has a big project deadline. She will be at the office until at least midnight. We will have plenty of time. And they did. That first Tuesday night was the beginning of a pattern that continued for weeks. Rachel scrolled through messages sent right before and right after those encounters, reading David's excitement, his guilt, his justifications. I feel terrible. This is wrong. Does it feel wrong when we are together? No. That is the problem. It feels more right than anything has felt in years. Then stop feeling guilty. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be with someone who makes you feel alive. But what about Rachel? She does not deserve this. You said yourself she barely notices you anymore. She is married to her work, not to you. You are just giving her what she already chose, the freedom to focus on her career without having to pretend to be present in a marriage that makes neither of you happy. Rachel wanted to scream. She wanted to throw the laptop across the room. How dare this woman, this stranger who knew nothing about their marriage, make those judgments? How dare David let her? But the worst was yet to come. Rachel found messages from just 3 days ago, a conversation that revealed the true depth of David's betrayal. I love you. I need you to know that. This is not just physical for me. I am in love with you. I never stopped. I love you too. I think I always have. So what do? I cannot keep living this double life. It is killing me. I know. I have been thinking about that. I have a plan. What kind of plan? I need to prepare the groundwork. Make the transition easier for everyone involved. Rachel is going to be devastated no matter how I do this, but I can at least minimize the damage. How? I start pulling back gradually, spending more time away from home. She will start to notice the distance, start to prepare herself emotionally for the inevitable. When enough time has passed and she is ready, I ask for a divorce. Clean, civil. We divide everything fairly and move on with our lives. When enough time has passed, how long are we talking? A few months, maybe 6. Just enough time for her to see it coming without it being a complete shock. 6 months? I am supposed to wait 6 months while you live with another woman and pretend everything is fine? It is the right way to do this. Trust me, if I just suddenly ask for divorce out of nowhere, she will fight it. She will make it messy. This way, she will be prepared. She might even be relieved. And then what? After the divorce? Then we can finally be together. For real. No more hiding. No more sneaking around. Just you and me. The way it should have been all along. Promise me. I promise. 6 months from now, we will be starting our life together. I just need you to be patient a little longer. Rachel stared at the screen, her vision blurring with unshed tears. 6 months. David had planned to control her emotions, manipulate her perception of their marriage, all so he could orchestrate their divorce on his terms, at his convenience. He was going to decide when she was ready to have her heart broken, as if he had that right, as if her feelings were just another variable in his carefully constructed plan. She scrolled further, finding messages that made her blood run cold. Messages where David and V mocked her. She asked where I was tonight, like I owe her a detailed itinerary of every minute of my day. That is controlling. You are a grown man. You do not need to report your whereabouts to anyone. I know, but she gets anxious, neurotic, always worried about something. Maybe if she paid more attention to you and less to her computer, you would not need to look elsewhere for affection. Maybe, but honestly, at this point, I do not think anything would fix us. We are just too different. She is all logic and analysis. No spontaneity, no passion. Everything has to be planned and organized. I remember how spontaneous you used to be, how alive. She killed that part of you. She did not kill it. It was just dormant. You brought it back to life. Rachel closed her eyes, forcing herself to breathe through the rage and pain threatening to overwhelm her. They were blaming her, rewriting history, to paint her as the villain in their love story. Never mind that she worked long hours to help support their household. Never mind that David had encouraged her career ambitions, had been proud of her success, had celebrated her promotions. Now suddenly she was neurotic and controlling and passionless, all because it made their betrayal easier to justify. She saved everything, every message thread, every photo, every damning piece of evidence. She created 3 separate copies on encrypted flash drives and backed everything up to a secure cloud server that David could never access. She organized it all by date, cross-referenced it with the security camera footage, created a timeline that documented every lie, every encounter, every moment of betrayal. When she finished, the sun was fully up. Rachel glanced at the clock. 7:15 in the morning. David would be waking soon. She closed her laptop and carefully composed her face, hiding the devastation beneath a mask of normalcy. She heard movement in the bedroom, water running in the bathroom. David getting ready for his day, completely unaware that his entire carefully constructed deception had just crumbled. Rachel stood and walked to the kitchen. She started making coffee, going through the familiar motions automatically. When David emerged, freshly showered and dressed in another expensive suit, she was standing at the counter scrolling through her phone as if nothing had changed. "Morning," he said, kissing her cheek in that perfunctory way that had become their routine. "Good morning," Rachel replied, her voice steady. David poured himself a cup of coffee and leaned against the counter, checking his phone. Rachel watched him from the corner of her eye. This man she had loved for so many years. This man she had built a life with, now a stranger wearing a familiar face. He looked relaxed, comfortable, completely at ease. No guilt visible in his expression, no shame. He had perfected the art of living a double life, and it showed in how naturally he moved through his morning routine. "Big day today?" Rachel asked, keeping her tone casual. "Not too bad. Couple of client meetings. Might run late tonight, though. One of the meetings is across town, and you know how traffic can be." Another lie. So smooth, so practiced. Rachel wondered how many of his late nights had actually been client meetings versus nights spent with Victoria. That was the woman's name. She had finally found it buried in one of the message threads. Victoria Hayes, 32 years old, works in public relations. David's ex-girlfriend from before he met Rachel. The woman he had described as just a friend. Someone from his past who meant nothing anymore. "Okay," Rachel said simply. "I have a lot of work to catch up on too. Might be another late night for me." David nodded, barely listening. He was typing something on his phone, probably a message to Victoria. Rachel felt her stomach turn, but kept her expression neutral. "Well, I should head out," David said, grabbing his briefcase. "See you tonight. Or tomorrow morning if we are both working late." He kissed her cheek again, that same mechanical gesture, and walked toward the door. Rachel watched him leave, watched the door close behind him, listened to his footsteps fade down the hallway. Then she sat down at the kitchen table and finally let herself feel the weight of what she had discovered. But she did not cry. Not yet. Crying could come later. Right now, she needed to think. She needed to plan. David had spent months deceiving her, manipulating her, plotting the end of their marriage on his timeline. He had decided when she would find out, how she would find out, what emotional state she would be in when it happened. He had taken away her agency, her choice, her right to know the truth about her own life. Now it was her turn. She would choose the timeline. She would decide when and how this ended. And David would not see it coming until it was far too late to do anything about it. Rachel opened her laptop and began researching divorce attorneys in the Seattle area. She needed someone good, someone who specialized in cases involving infidelity, someone who would fight for her interests. After an hour of reading reviews and comparing credentials, she found what she was looking for. Daniel Morrison, attorney at law, office in Bellevue, 20 years of experience, impressive success rate in contested divorce cases. She called the office and spoke to a receptionist. "I need to schedule a consultation as soon as possible, and I need complete discretion." "Of course. We handle many sensitive cases. Can you come in tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon?" "Yes, thank you." Rachel hung up and stared at her phone. Tomorrow. In less than 24 hours, she would be sitting in a lawyer's office, officially beginning the process of ending her marriage. It felt surreal, unreal, like she was watching someone else's life fall apart rather than her own. But beneath the shock and hurt, something else was growing. Something cold and clear and focused. determination, resolve, the same mindset she brought to her work when facing a massive security breach. Assess the damage, contain the threat, execute the solution. Move forward. Rachel spent the rest of the day working from home, but her mind was only partially on her projects. The other part was planning, calculating, preparing. She checked their joint bank accounts and was relieved to see they maintained separate finances for the most part. The apartment was in her name alone, purchased before they married with money inherited from her grandmother. David had no legal claim to it. Their cars were titled individually. The only shared assets were the joint checking account they used for household expenses and some furniture they had bought together over the years. The division would be relatively simple compared to many divorces. That evening, David texted to say his meeting was running even later than expected. He would grab dinner downtown and probably not be home until after 11. Rachel knew exactly what that meant. Thursday night. Victoria night. She checked the security camera footage around 10:30 and, as predicted, saw David and Victoria entering the apartment together. Rachel sat in a hotel room 3 miles away, a room she had checked into an hour earlier because she could not bear to be anywhere near that apartment while it was happening. She watched the footage on her phone, watched them walk through her home, disappear into her bedroom, and felt absolutely nothing. The numbness was actually a relief. It meant she was moving past the hurt into something else, something stronger. The next afternoon, Rachel sat in Daniel Morrison's office, a sleek, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The attorney was in his early 50s, gray hair, sharp eyes, expensive suit. He had the look of someone who had seen every possible variation of human betrayal and was no longer surprised by anything. Rachel handed him one of the flash drives containing all the evidence she had compiled. This is everything. Security camera footage, text messages, timeline documentation, location data, 12 documented encounters over 6 weeks, all taking place in our apartment while I was at work. Daniel plugged the flash drive into his computer and began reviewing the files. His expression remained professional, but Rachel saw his eyebrows raise slightly as he clicked through the videos and messages. "This is exceptionally thorough," he said, after several minutes. "Most people do not have anywhere near this level of documentation. May I ask what you do for a living?" "Cybersecurity specialist." He nodded, a hint of a smile touching his lips. "That explains it. With this evidence, you have an airtight case. Your husband committed adultery repeatedly in your shared residence. In Washington state, while we are a no-fault divorce state, infidelity can still impact property division and spousal support. He has absolutely no grounds to contest anything. How long will the process take? If he agrees to the terms, we can have an uncontested divorce finalized in a few months. With this evidence, I guarantee he will prefer to agree rather than have any of this become public record in a contested proceeding." Rachel nodded. "There is something else you should know. I am planning to leave the state. I have a job offer in California. I want to accept it and relocate within the next 2 weeks." Daniel looked up sharply. 2 weeks? That is very fast. "I know, but I cannot stay here. I cannot be in that apartment, in this city, pretending everything is fine while knowing what I know. I need to leave, as soon as possible." "I understand. You can grant me power of attorney to represent you in all proceedings. You would not need to be physically present for most of the process, only for the final signing, and even that can potentially be done remotely with proper notarization. Then let us do that. I want to file for divorce, set the process in motion, and then leave. He can be served the papers after I am gone." Daniel studied her for a long moment. "You have really thought this through. I am good at planning. It is what I do. Hey, may I offer some advice? Speaking not just as your attorney, but as someone who has seen hundreds of these cases. Of course. Make sure you are doing this for the right reasons. I can see you are hurt and angry, which is completely justified. But leaving the state, starting over somewhere new, that is a massive life change. Do not make that decision purely out of pain. Make sure it is what you genuinely want for your future, not just an escape from your present. Rachel appreciated his honesty. I understand. But this is not just about escaping. I have been offered a position I turned down twice before because of him. Because he said it would be unfair to his career if I took a job that required us to relocate. I put his needs first, his comfort first, his success first. And this is what I got in return. So yes, I am hurt and angry, but I am also taking back control of my own life, making choices for myself instead of for us. And that starts with accepting a job that will challenge me, advance my career, and put 3 states between me and this disaster. Daniel nodded slowly. Then I think you are making the right decision. Let us get the paperwork started. They spent the next hour going over details. Rachel signed power of attorney documents. They discussed terms for the divorce settlement. Daniel would file the initial paperwork within a week and arrange for David to be served shortly after Rachel left for California. When Rachel walked out of that office, she felt lighter somehow, like she had set down a weight she had been carrying without realizing it. The decision was made. The wheels were in motion. There was no going back now. That evening, she received an email that felt like the universe confirming she was making the right choice. The subject line read, "Following up, Chief Security Officer position, Silicon Valley." Rachel opened it with trembling hands. "Dear Miss Matthews, I know we have reached out twice before about our Chief Security Officer position, and you declined both times due to personal circumstances. I am writing once more because the position remains unfilled, and you remain our first choice. I do not know if your situation has changed, but our board has authorized a significantly enhanced offer. $320,000 per year base salary, substantial equity package, $50,000 relocation assistance, corporate apartment in Mountain View for 18 months. If there is any possibility you might be interested, I would love to schedule a call. Best regards, Jennifer Kim, Executive Recruiter, Tech Shield Security." Rachel read the email 3 times. $320,000, more than double her current salary. Equity in a unicorn startup that could be worth millions when they went public. Relocation assistance, a corporate apartment so she would not even have to worry about finding housing immediately. This was not just a job offer. This was a lifeline, a sign, a door opening at the exact moment she needed it most. She looked around the apartment, at the home she had made with David, the furniture they had chosen together, the photos on the walls documenting years of what she thought was a happy marriage. And she felt no attachment, no desire to stay, no fear of leaving. She opened her laptop and began typing a response. "Dear Jennifer, thank you for reaching out again. My personal circumstances have changed dramatically in the past 48 hours, and I now have complete freedom to relocate. I would very much like to reopen discussions about the Chief Security Officer position. How quickly could I potentially start? I am available for a call at your earliest convenience. Best regards, Rachel Matthews." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The response came back within 20 minutes. "Rachel, this is wonderful news. Are you available for a video call tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon Pacific Time? I will include our Chief Technology Officer and one of our board members. If the call goes well, we could potentially have you starting within 2 to 3 weeks. Does that timeline work for you?" 2 to 3 weeks. It was perfect, exactly what she needed. "Tomorrow at 2 works perfectly. I look forward to speaking with you all." Rachel closed her laptop and looked around the apartment again. In less than 3 weeks, she would be gone, starting over in California with a career-defining job and a future that belonged entirely to her. David would wake up one morning to find her gone, divorce papers served, and no explanation beyond what he could piece together himself. He had planned to control the narrative of their ending, to manage her emotions, to decide when she was ready. Instead, she would disappear like smoke. leaving him to deal with the consequences of his choices alone. That night, David came home around 11:30, smelling faintly of perfume that was not Rachel's. He kissed her cheek, mumbled something about the meeting going well, and headed straight to the bedroom. Rachel stayed in the living room, working on her laptop, finalizing the transition plan for her current job, beginning to pack mentally, even though she could not physically pack yet without raising suspicion. She had 12 days. 12 days to prepare for the biggest change of her life. 12 days to move through her normal routine while secretly dismantling everything. 12 days to stay calm, stay focused, stay committed to the plan. She could do this. She had faced down hackers trying to breach billion-dollar systems. She had stopped cyber attacks that could have destroyed companies. She had built a career on staying calm under pressure, on thinking 3 steps ahead, on executing plans with precision. This was just another problem to solve, another system to secure, another threat to neutralize, and Rachel Matthews was very, very good at her job. The video call the next afternoon went better than Rachel could have imagined. Jennifer Kim, the recruiter, appeared on screen first, a warm smile on her face. She was joined by Marcus Webb, the Chief Technology Officer, a man in his mid-40s with graying temples and an easy confidence, and Sarah Chen, a board member who had founded 2 successful startups before joining TechShield as an advisor. They spent 2 hours discussing the role, the company vision, the challenges they were facing, and what they needed from their chief security officer. Rachel answered every question with the expertise and confidence that came from years of experience. She outlined her approach to building secure systems, her philosophy on team leadership, her track record of preventing breaches and protecting sensitive data. "Your background is exactly what we need," Marcus said, leaning forward in his chair. "We are growing fast, maybe too fast, and we need someone who can scale our security infrastructure to match. Someone who can think strategically, but also get into the technical details when needed. That is a rare combination. I appreciate that. I have always believed security cannot be an afterthought. It has to be built into the foundation of everything you do, especially in a company handling the kind of sensitive data you manage." Sarah nodded enthusiastically. "That is exactly the mindset we need. We have had consultants, we have had contractors, but we need someone in-house at the leadership level who owns this completely. Someone we can trust to protect not just our systems, but our clients and our reputation." The conversation flowed naturally from there. They discussed the team she would lead, the budget she would have, the projects already in progress, and the roadmap for the next year. Rachel felt energized in a way she had not felt in months. This was the kind of challenge she craved, the kind of work that would push her, grow her, demand everything she had to give. "I want to be transparent with you," Jennifer said, as the call began to wind down. "We are prepared to make this offer official today, if you are interested. We have been searching for the right person for over a year, and we believe you are that person. The compensation package we outlined in the email stands. $320,000 base, 0.5% equity, $50,000 relocation, corporate apartment in Mountain View. We can have offer documents to you within 2 hours. And if you accept, we would love to have you start in 2 weeks. I know that is fast, but is it feasible?" Rachel did not hesitate. "Yes, it is feasible. And yes, I am absolutely interested. Send me the documents. I will review them today and get back to you by tomorrow morning." Marcus grinned. "Outstanding. Welcome to the team, Rachel. Pending the formalities, of course. But I think we all know this is going to work out. We are thrilled to have you." After the call ended, Rachel sat back in her chair and let out a long breath. It was really happening. In 2 weeks, she would be starting a new job, in a new city, with a new life. Everything was falling into place with a speed and precision that felt almost surreal. The offer documents arrived in her email within 90 minutes, exactly as promised. Rachel reviewed every line, every clause, every detail. It was all there. The salary, the equity, the benefits, the relocation package, everything they had discussed, and more. She signed electronically that evening and sent it back with a start date of exactly 14 days from now. The response came within the hour. Offer accepted. Welcome to TechShield Security. We will handle your work visa paperwork, arrange the corporate apartment, and coordinate your relocation. This is going to be amazing. See you in 2 weeks. Rachel closed her laptop and allowed herself a small smile. Phase 1 complete. She had the job. She had the escape route. Now she just had to execute the departure, without David suspecting anything until it was too late. The next 10 days were the most surreal of Rachel's entire life. During the day, she maintained absolute normalcy. She went to work at her current job and began quietly transitioning her projects to colleagues. Her boss was disappointed but understanding when she gave notice, offering more money to stay, but Rachel politely declined. She had made her decision. At home, she played the role of dutiful wife. She made dinner when David was home. She asked about his day and listened to his lies about client meetings and business development. She smiled and nodded and acted like everything was perfectly fine. And every interaction felt like she was watching herself from outside her body, performing in a play she no longer believed in. At night, when David was asleep or out with Victoria on their regular Tuesday and Thursday schedule, Rachel systematically prepared for her departure. She went through the apartment and identified what was hers, what was his, what they had bought together. She took photos of everything for documentation purposes. She made lists. She organized. She could not pack, obviously. Could not pull out suitcases and start boxing up her belongings. That would raise immediate suspicion. So she worked in small increments. A few items of clothing moved to the back of the closet. Important documents gathered and placed in her work bag. Jewelry from her grandmother. Photos from her childhood. Personal mementos quietly relocated to a storage unit she rented under her maiden name. She opened a new bank account at a different institution and began quietly transferring her money. Not all at once, which might trigger alerts, but in increments that looked like normal spending. Within a week, she had moved 80% of her personal savings to an account David did not know existed. She told her mother and brother what was happening. That conversation was painful but necessary. They met for lunch at a restaurant across town, somewhere David would never go. Her mother, Helen, an elegant woman of 65 with silver hair and kind eyes, listened to the whole story in silence. When Rachel finished, tears were streaming down Helen's face. "I am so sorry, sweetheart. I am so sorry. You deserve so much better than this." James, Rachel's older brother, looked like he wanted to put his fist through a wall. At 42, he was protective of his younger sister in a way that had never diminished, despite their ages. "I am going to kill him. I am going to actually kill him." "No, you are not," Rachel said firmly. "You are going to let me handle this my way, which means you are going to act completely normal around him until I am gone. No confrontations, no warning signs. Can you do that?" James clenched his jaw but nodded. "When do you leave?" 4 days. I have a flight Friday morning before dawn. He will wake up, and I will be gone." "Where are you going?" Helen asked. "California. Silicon Valley. I have a new job. Chief Security Officer for a major tech company. It is an incredible opportunity, Mom. The kind of opportunity I turned down twice before, because David said it would not be fair to him." Helen reached across the table and took Rachel's hand. "I never liked him. I want you to know that. I never trusted him completely. There was always something too smooth about him, too polished, like he was performing rather than being genuine. But you seemed happy, so I kept my mouth shut. I should have said something. It would not have changed anything. I had to figure this out for myself. Are you going to be okay?" Helen's voice cracked with worry. "Starting over somewhere new, all alone, going through a divorce. That is so much to handle at once. I am going to be better than okay. I am going to be free. For the first time in years, I am going to make decisions based on what I want, what I need, what is best for me. Not for us, not for him, just for me. James studied her carefully. You seem different, stronger somehow. I am. I think I have been playing small for a long time, making myself smaller, quieter, less demanding so David could feel bigger. I did not even realize I was doing it. But I am done with that. I am done shrinking myself to make someone else comfortable. They talked for another hour, working through logistics. Helen would keep in touch by phone and email. James would handle anything that came up in Seattle that required family intervention. They would visit Rachel in California once she was settled, and they would support her through whatever came next. When Rachel left that restaurant, he felt their love and support wrapping around her like armor. She was not doing this alone. She had people who cared about her, who would be there no matter what happened. On Thursday night, 3 days before her planned departure, Victoria came to the apartment as usual. Rachel watched on the security camera from a coffee shop downtown, sitting in a corner booth with her laptop, documenting this final betrayal for the record. She felt nothing as she watched them enter. No pain, no anger, just cold satisfaction that she had one more piece of evidence if it was ever needed. Friday morning, 2 days before departure, Rachel finalized everything with her lawyer. The divorce papers were ready. David would be served on Monday, 3 days after Rachel left the state. The timing was deliberate. She wanted to be far away, settled in her new apartment, starting her new job before he even knew she was gone. "Are you sure about the timeline?" Daniel asked during their final meeting. "Once you leave and he gets served, there is no going back. No chance for conversation or reconciliation. I am absolutely sure. We had 7 years for conversation. 7 years for him to be honest with me. He chose deception. He chose betrayal. He chose to plan my emotional journey through the end of our marriage, like I was a project he needed to manage, rather than a person he supposedly loved. I am done giving him choices about my life. This is my choice. Mine alone." Daniel nodded with what looked like approval. "Then I think you are doing the right thing. I will handle everything from here. You focus on your new beginning." Saturday, Rachel went through the apartment one final time. She had already removed everything that truly mattered. What remained were just things: furniture, kitchen supplies, books and decorations that meant nothing without the memories attached to them. And those memories were tainted now, poisoned by betrayal. She had 2 suitcases packed and hidden in the trunk of her car, parked in a garage 2 blocks away. Everything else she cared about was either in the storage unit or already shipped to California. She was ready. That night, David came home around 8, unusually early. He seemed agitated, pacing around the living room, checking his phone constantly. "Everything okay?" Rachel asked from the couch where she was reading a book. "What? Oh yeah, fine. Just a client being difficult. Nothing I cannot handle." He sat down next to her and put his arm around her shoulders. The gesture felt foreign, unwelcome. Rachel forced herself not to flinch away. "I have been thinking," David said slowly. "We should take a trip, get away for a weekend. We have both been working so much lately. We barely see each other. Maybe we need some time to reconnect." Rachel almost laughed at the irony. Now he wanted to reconnect. 2 days before she was leaving forever. Was this part of his plan? The gradual pulling back he had mentioned in his messages to Victoria? Make a show of trying to save the marriage so he could later claim he did everything possible? "That sounds nice," Rachel said carefully. "When were you thinking? Maybe next month? I will look at my calendar and we can plan something." "Sure, let me know." David kissed the top of her head, and Rachel had to use every ounce of self-control not to recoil. She sat there, trapped under his arm, and counted the hours until she would never have to pretend again. 22 hours. Less than 1 full day. Then she would be free. That night, Rachel barely slept. She lay in bed next to David, listening to him snore softly, and thought about everything that had led to this moment. The early days of their relationship when she had believed in them, the wedding day when she had promised forever, the years of building a life together, of intertwining their futures, of believing they were a team. All of it had been real for her. But for him, she would never know what was real and what was performance, and she realized she did not need to know. It did not matter anymore. What mattered was that she was choosing herself, choosing her own happiness, choosing a future that belonged to her alone. At 4 a.m, Rachel's alarm went off. She had set it to silent, a vibration only she could feel. She slipped out of bed carefully, not wanting to wake David. She dressed in comfortable clothes for travel. Jeans, a soft sweater, sneakers. She pulled her blonde hair into a ponytail and took one last look in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was different from the one who had discovered the truth 12 days ago. Stronger, clearer, ready. She walked through the apartment silently, committing nothing to memory. This place held no love for her anymore. Only lessons. Painful, necessary lessons about trust and self-worth and knowing when to walk away. In the living room, she removed her wedding ring. The platinum band felt heavy in her hand, weighted with years of false promises. She set it on the coffee table. Next to it, she placed a single piece of paper, a note she had written the night before. The note said only 3 lines. Short, direct, devastating. I went to hell. Do not look for me. Your lawyer will be in contact. Rachel stood there for a moment, staring at the ring and the note. This was it, the point of no return. Once she walked out that door, everything would change. Everything would end, and everything would begin. She picked up her purse, checked that she had her phone, wallet, and passport. Then she walked to the door, opened it silently, and stepped into the hallway. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like freedom. Rachel retrieved her suitcases from the parking garage and called a rideshare to take her to the airport. The driver arrived within minutes, a quiet man who seemed to sense she was not in the mood for conversation. The city was still dark as they drove through empty streets, Seattle sleeping around them, unaware that Rachel Matthews was leaving it behind forever. At the airport, she checked her bags and moved through security with mechanical efficiency. Her flight did not board for another hour, so she sat in the departure lounge with a cup of coffee and watched the sky slowly lighten through the massive windows. Other travelers shuffled past, some excited for vacations, others weary from business trips, all of them living their own stories that Rachel would never know. Her phone buzzed, a text from David. Her heart jumped for a moment before she remembered he was still asleep when she left. This must be an automatic message, something he had scheduled earlier. She opened it. Good morning, beautiful. Have a great day at work. Love you. Rachel stared at those words. Love you. 2 words that had once meant everything, and now meant nothing. She did not respond. Instead, she opened her phone settings and blocked his number. Then she blocked him on every social media platform, every messaging app, every possible avenue of communication. By the time she finished, David no longer existed in her digital world. Another text came through, this one from her mother. Safe travels, sweetheart. Call me when you land. I am so proud of you. Rachel smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. Whatever pain lay ahead, she was not facing it alone. The boarding announcement came over the speakers. Flight 427 to San Francisco, now boarding all groups. Rachel gathered her things and joined the line. She handed her boarding pass to the gate agent, walked down the jetway, and found her seat by the window. Premium economy, paid for by TechShield as part of her relocation package. The seat was comfortable, spacious, a small luxury that felt significant somehow. As the plane taxied toward the runway, Rachel looked out the window at Seattle one last time. The city where she had built her career, where she had met David, where she had believed in a future that turned out to be a fiction. She felt no sadness watching it recede, only relief. The plane lifted off, climbing through low clouds into brilliant sunshine above. Rachel closed her eyes and breathed deeply. She was airborne, untethered, free. Somewhere below, David was waking up, walking into an empty apartment, finding the note, finding the ring, realizing she was gone. Rachel wondered what his face looked like in that moment. Shock? Anger? Panic? She would never know, and that was perfectly fine. Her phone buzzed again, multiple times in rapid succession. She glanced at the screen. Unknown numbers. David must have realized she blocked him and was trying to reach her from other phones. She turned her phone to airplane mode and put it away. Whatever he had to say, she did not need to hear it. The flight lasted just under 2 hours. Rachel spent most of it staring out the window, watching the landscape change below. Mountains gave way to valleys, green to brown, the Pacific Northwest to California. When the plane began its descent into San Francisco, Rachel felt her pulse quicken, with something that was not fear, but anticipation. She was really doing this, starting over, building a new life, becoming someone she had forgotten she could be. A company car was waiting for her at the airport, another perk of her new position. The driver, a friendly woman named Maria, helped load her suitcases and then drove her south toward Mountain View. They talked easily during the drive, Maria pointing out landmarks and explaining the geography of Silicon Valley. "You are going to love it here," Maria said. "It is different from anywhere else. Everyone here is building something, creating something. There is this energy, you know? Like anything is possible. I think I need that right now," Rachel admitted. The feeling that anything is possible. The corporate apartment was in a modern complex near the TechShield offices. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, full kitchen, spacious living room, balcony with a view of the mountains in the distance. Everything was furnished with contemporary taste. Clean lines, neutral colors, a blank canvas waiting for Rachel to make it her own. After Maria left, Rachel stood in the middle of the empty living room and let the silence wash over her. This was hers. Not theirs, just hers. Every choice about how to arrange it, how to decorate it, how to live in it, would be hers alone. She unpacked slowly, methodically, giving herself time to process everything that had happened. When her suitcases were empty and her clothes hung in the closet, she took a shower and changed into fresh clothes. Then she sat on the balcony with a glass of water and turned her phone back on. The messages flooded in. Dozens of them. All from unknown numbers, all clearly from David. "Where are you? What note? What are you talking about? This is not funny. Come home right now. Lawyer? What lawyer? What is going on? Answer your phone. You are being ridiculous. Whatever you think I did, we can talk about it. Fine. I know you are upset. I get it. Come home when you are ready, and we will work this out like adults." Rachel read through them with detached curiosity, like studying data from a failed security system. She could see David's thought process evolving. Confusion, to anger, to dismissal, to attempted manipulation. He genuinely believed she was somewhere nearby, throwing a tantrum, that she would cool off and come crawling back so he could magnanimously forgive her for overreacting. He had no idea she was gone. Really gone. Rachel opened her camera and took a selfie. She was sitting on the balcony, California sunshine streaming down, mountains visible in the background. She looked tired but determined, free but uncertain, sad but hopeful. She sent the photo to David's original number, the one she had blocked, knowing it would not deliver. Then she sent it from her email to his email, attaching a simple message. "I went to hell, just like you suggested. Thank you for the recommendation." She did not wait for a response. She blocked his email, too. The next few days blurred together in a whirlwind of activity. Rachel started her new job and was immediately immersed in projects that demanded her full attention. The TechShield team welcomed her warmly, grateful to finally have leadership on security issues that had been languishing for months. She worked long hours, not because she was avoiding her personal life, but because she genuinely loved the challenge. Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away in Seattle, David was being served with divorce papers. Rachel's lawyer sent her a brief email confirming the documents had been delivered, and that David's initial response was exactly as predicted: shock, denial, threats to contest. But when faced with the overwhelming evidence, video footage showing him bringing another woman into their home over a dozen times, text messages planning their future together while married to Rachel, he had no choice but to accept reality. His lawyer contacted Rachel's lawyer with a simple message. David would agree to all terms. He wanted this resolved quietly, quickly, with as little public record as possible. He was offering to pay all legal fees, all court costs, whatever it took to make it go away. Rachel approved the settlement without hesitation. She did not want his money beyond what was fair. She wanted closure. She wanted freedom. She wanted to never think about him again. The divorce moved through the system with remarkable speed. Uncontested. Simple division of minimal shared assets. No fight over the apartment that was legally hers anyway. Within 3 months, it was finalized. Rachel received the final documents via email while sitting in her office at TechShield. She signed them electronically, officially ending her marriage, and felt nothing but relief. David tried to contact her a few more times in those months. Messages sent through mutual acquaintances, attempts to connect on professional networking sites, even a handwritten letter forwarded by her mother, who received it at her home address. Rachel read the letter once, a rambling apology filled with self-pity and justifications, and then shredded it. She did not respond. There was nothing left to say. Life in California transformed Rachel in ways she had not expected. The work was demanding, but fulfilling. She led a team of brilliant engineers and analysts, building security systems for some of the most important companies in the world. Her insights were valued, her decisions respected, her expertise recognized. For the first time in years, she felt like she was operating at her full potential, not dimming her light to avoid outshining someone else. But it was not just the work, it was everything. The sunshine that seemed to infuse the air with possibility, the energy of Silicon Valley, where everyone was building, creating, innovating. The freedom to make decisions based solely on what she wanted, what felt right, what served her growth. She joined a yoga studio and started practicing 3 times a week. She took weekend trips to Napa Valley, to Big Sur, to San Francisco, exploring Northern California with the wonder of a tourist and the comfort of a resident. She made friends with colleagues, going out for dinners and drinks, laughing more than she had in years. And slowly, carefully, she began to heal. 6 months after arriving in California, Rachel attended a cybersecurity conference in San Francisco. She was on a panel discussing zero trust architecture, a topic she was passionate about. After the panel, as attendees mingled over coffee and conversations, a man approached her. He was tall, probably around 40, with warm brown eyes and an easy smile. He wore jeans and a button-down shirt, the standard uniform of tech professionals, who wanted to look professional but not stuffy. Rachel Matthews, I am Michael Torres. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed your presentation. Your approach to zero trust design is innovative. I work in cloud architecture for one of the major tech companies, and I would love to pick your brain about some challenges we are facing. Do you have time for coffee? Rachel hesitated for only a moment. Then she smiled. Sure. I have about an hour before my next session. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch led to exchanging contact information. A week later, Michael texted, asking if she would like to meet for dinner to continue their discussion about security protocols. Rachel almost said no, not because she was not interested, but because she was nervous. It had been years since she had dated anyone. The thought of opening herself up to another person, risking vulnerability again, felt terrifying. But then she remembered who she was now, the woman who had rebuilt her life from ashes. The woman who had chosen herself when it would have been easier to stay small. The woman who deserved happiness, connection, and love on her own terms. She texted back, "Dinner sounds great." That dinner was the beginning of something Rachel had not been looking for, but found herself grateful to have discovered. Michael was different from David in every way that mattered. He listened without interrupting. He asked questions about her work and genuinely wanted to understand the answers. He celebrated her successes without a trace of insecurity or competition. When Rachel told him, several dates in, about her divorce and what had happened, Michael's response was simple. "That must have been incredibly painful. I am sorry you went through that, but I am also grateful it brought you here, because otherwise we might never have met." Their relationship developed slowly, carefully, both of them bringing their own histories and cautions. But it felt right in a way Rachel had never experienced before. Easy, natural, like two people choosing each other consciously, deliberately, without games or manipulation or hidden agendas. 8 months into dating, Michael asked Rachel to move in with him. She said yes, though they decided to find a new place together rather than her moving into his apartment. A fresh start for both of them. They found a townhouse in Palo Alto, close to good schools, though neither of them had children yet. But they talked about the future openly, honestly, making plans together as equals. A year after that, on a weekend trip to Napa Valley, Michael proposed. They were watching the sunset over vineyards, wine glasses in hand, the air warm and golden. He got down on one knee and said words Rachel would remember forever. "I love you exactly as you are. I love your brilliance and your strength. I love that you know who you are and what you want. I love that you challenge me to be better. I love that we are partners in every sense of the word. Will you marry me?" Rachel said yes through happy tears, the kind of tears that came from joy rather than pain. They married 6 months later, in a small ceremony overlooking the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by family and close friends. Helen cried through the entire ceremony. James walked Rachel down the aisle and whispered in her ear before giving her away, "You deserve this. You deserve all the happiness in the world." See, life continued to unfold in beautiful, unexpected ways. Rachel was promoted to Vice President of Security at TechShield, overseeing offices across 3 cities and leading a team of nearly 90 people. When the company prepared for its initial public offering, Rachel's equity became worth several $million practically overnight. The stock options she had been accumulating for years suddenly represented financial security beyond anything she had imagined. But more than the money, more than the career success, more than any external validation, Rachel found something she had lost without realizing it: peace. The ability to wake up each morning without dread or pretense. The freedom to be fully herself without apology or diminishment. The joy of building a life with someone who saw her clearly and loved her anyway. And then came the day everything came full circle. Rachel and Michael had been married for 2 years when she discovered she was pregnant. They had been trying for several months, and the positive test felt like a miracle. Their daughter was born on a sunny California morning, perfect and healthy, with her mother's blue eyes and her father's easy smile. They named her Emma, and she transformed their lives in ways that were both exhausting and magical. When Emma was 3 years old, Rachel had to return to Seattle for the first time since she had left. Her mother was turning 70, and the family was throwing a big celebration. Rachel had avoided going back, finding excuses each time an event came up. But this was different. Helen had been there for Rachel through everything. This mattered. So Rachel, Michael, and Emma flew to Seattle for the weekend. The party was held in the backyard of Helen's home, decorated with lights and flowers, filled with family and friends who had watched Rachel grow up. Everyone wanted to meet Emma, to hear about California, to celebrate how far Rachel had come. It was in the middle of the party, while Rachel was laughing with her cousin and watching Emma chase butterflies across the grass, that James appeared at her side. "He is here," James said quietly. Rachel's laughter died. Who? David. He is outside. On the street. He asked if he could talk to you for a minute. Rachel felt Michael appear beside her immediately, protective without being possessive. Do you want me to send him away? She looked at her husband, at her daughter playing nearby, at the life she had built that was so far removed from the woman she had been 5 years ago, and she realized she was not afraid, not angry, just curious about what the man who had once been her entire world could possibly have to say now. No, I will talk to him, but come with me. Michael took her hand, and they walked to the front of the house together. James followed a few steps behind, ever the protective older brother. David was standing on the sidewalk, and Rachel barely recognized him. He had lost significant weight, his suit hanging loose on a frame that had once been robust. His hair was graying at the temples, and there were new lines around his eyes that made him look older than his years. He looked tired, worn down, defeated in a way that went beyond physical appearance. When he saw Rachel, his eyes widened. They traveled from her face to her hand clasped in Michael's, to the wedding ring on her finger, and then past them to where Emma's laughter could be heard from the backyard. Understanding and pain crossed his features in equal measure. Rachel, he said, her name coming out rough and broken. What do you want, David? He looked at Michael, at their joined hands, back at Rachel. I just wanted to see you, to talk, just for a minute. Rachel nodded once. Then, talk. David took a shaky breath. I ruined everything. I know I did. You were the best thing in my life, and I was too stupid to see it until it was gone. I threw away something real for something that was never going to last. Victoria left me. Did you know that? No. And I do not care. He flinched but continued. She left a few months after you did. Once the excitement wore off, once she realized I was broke and struggling, and not the successful guy she thought I was, she was gone. Said it was not what she signed up for. Funny how that works, right? She only wanted me when I was unavailable, when I was actually free to be with her. I was not interesting anymore. Rachel remained silent, offering no comfort. The agency failed. I had to close it. Lost all my clients. I am working as a junior marketing associate now for someone else's company. I had to sell my car. I am living in a shared apartment with roommates I barely know. Everything fell apart after you left. That is not my problem, David. I know. I know it is not. I am not here to ask for anything. I am not here to beg you to take me back. I can see that ship has sailed. He gestured vaguely toward Michael. I just needed to apologize. Really apologize. For everything I did to you. For cheating on you. For disrespecting you. For making you feel like you were not enough when the truth is, I was never enough for you. You deserved so much better than what I gave you, and I am sorry it took losing you for me to realize that. Rachel looked at this man who had once been her husband, her partner, her future, and she felt nothing. No lingering love, no satisfaction at his suffering, just a distant sadness for two people who had once meant something to each other, and now were strangers, connected only by shared history. I accept your apology, Rachel said finally, not because you deserve forgiveness, but because I deserve to close this chapter completely. You did not destroy me, David. You freed me. You forced me to find a strength I did not know I had. You pushed me to choose myself for the first time in my life. So in a strange way, thank you. Thank you for showing me I did not need you to be happy, that I was enough on my own, and that when the right person came along, I would recognize it because I finally knew my worth. David's eyes filled with tears. Are you happy? Rachel looked at Michael, who smiled at her with unconditional love. She thought about Emma, about the career she had built, about the life she was living. Yes, I am incredibly, genuinely happy. David nodded slowly, wiping at his eyes. Then I am glad for you. Even though it hurts like hell to see it. He started to turn away, but but Rachel called out, "David!" He stopped, looking back. "Get help. Real help. See a therapist. Work on whatever broke inside you that made you think betrayal was acceptable. You are not a monster. You just made terrible choices. But you can still fix your life. You can still become someone better." Fresh tears spilled down his cheeks. "I will try. I promise. I will try." He walked away then, disappearing down the street into whatever life awaited him. Rachel watched him go and felt the final thread connecting them snap. It was over. Truly, completely over. Michael wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "You were amazing. Are you okay?" "I am better than okay. I feel like I finally closed a door I did not realize was still open. He cannot hurt me anymore. He has no power over me. He never did, really. I was always the one with the power. I just had to learn how to use it." They stood there for a moment before Emma's voice called from the backyard. "Mommy, come see the butterfly." Rachel laughed, the sound light and free. "Our daughter wants to show me a butterfly. That seems like a much better use of my time than dwelling on the past." They walked back to the party hand in hand. Rachel scooped Emma into her arms, and her daughter wrapped small arms around her neck, chattering excitedly about the orange and black butterfly that had landed on a flower right next to her. Later that evening, after Emma was asleep in the guest room and Michael had gone to bed, Rachel sat on the back porch with her mother. The party was over, the decorations still up, but the guests gone home. They shared a pot of tea and looked up at the stars visible between Seattle's city lights. "I am so proud of you," Helen said quietly. "Watching how you handled seeing him today, watching how you have rebuilt your entire life, you are so much stronger than you were 5 years ago." "I had to be. I did not have a choice." "You always had a choice, sweetheart. You could have stayed. You could have forgiven him. You could have tried to make it work. But you chose yourself instead. That is the bravest thing a woman can do. Choose herself." Rachel smiled, thinking about how far she had come. The terrified woman sitting in a dark office at 3 in the morning, watching her life unravel through security camera footage, seemed like a different person now. And in many ways, she was. "You know what the funny part is?" Rachel said. "David told me to go to hell if I could not accept him spending time with his ex. Those were his exact words. Go to hell. And I did. I went exactly where he told me to go. But his hell turned out to be my paradise. The hell of leaving everything familiar, of starting over alone, of taking a terrifying leap into the unknown. That hell became the best thing that ever happened to me." Helen laughed and squeezed Rachel's hand. "Sometimes the best revenge is not destroying someone else. It is building yourself up so beautifully that their destruction of you becomes the catalyst for your greatest success." Rachel thought about TechShield, about the IPO that had made her wealthy beyond her modest dreams, about Michael, who loved her with a steadiness and respect David had never managed, about Emma, the daughter she might never have had if she had stayed in a dying marriage, about the friendships she had formed, the places she had traveled, the version of herself she had discovered when she finally stopped trying to fit into someone else's vision of who she should be. "I would not change anything," Rachel said with certainty, "even the pain, even the betrayal, because it all led here, to this moment, to this life, to this version of me that I actually like." They sat in comfortable silence for a while longer, mother and daughter, connected by love and understanding. Eventually, Helen went to bed, leaving Rachel alone with her thoughts under the Seattle stars. Rachel pulled out her phone and opened her photos. She scrolled back through years of images. Emma's birth, her wedding to Michael, her promotion at TechShield, weekend trips and holiday celebrations, ordinary moments that made up an extraordinary life. And then, almost without meaning to, she scrolled further back, to 5 years ago, to the security camera screenshot she had saved, the one showing David bringing Victoria into their apartment. the image that had shattered her world and simultaneously set her free. Rachel looked at that image for a long moment, at the man she had loved and the woman who had taken her place. And then she deleted it, permanently, irretrievably gone. She did not need it anymore, did not need the evidence or the reminder or the proof. She knew what had happened. She had learned what she needed to learn. The past was finished, and she was ready to let it go completely. Rachel stood and stretched, feeling the warm night air on her skin. Tomorrow they would fly back to California, back to their real life, back to the future she was building one choice at a time. But tonight, standing in her mother's backyard in the city she had fled from years ago, Rachel felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for the pain that had taught her strength. Gratitude for the betrayal that had revealed her worth. Gratitude for the ending that had become the most beautiful beginning. She looked up at the stars, the same stars that shone over California, over Seattle, over every place she had been, and every place she was going, and she smiled. "Thank you," she whispered to the universe, to fate, to whatever force had guided her through the darkness into the light. "Thank you for showing me I was always enough. Thank you for teaching me I did not need someone else to complete me. Thank you for the hell that turned out to be paradise." Then Rachel Matthews went inside, climbed into bed next to her husband, and slept peacefully through the night, dreaming of tomorrow and all the beautiful days that stretched beyond it. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And drop a comment below. What city are you watching from? And if your heart tells you to, feel free to leave me a tip on Buy Me a Coffee. Just check the first pinned comment. Thanks for keeping me company and for the coffee, and I'll see you in the next story.